Hunter Springs Park, because 40-year-old guys really like slide. So today I've traveled to Crystal River, Florida, and right now we're looking at Hunter Springs Park. This is a fairly standard community park. What makes this one stand out, and the reason why I traveled here, was they not only have a small beach area for swimming, but they also have a nice area to launch kayaks and other paddle boats. When I went out in the kayak the last time, I tried to paddle up the Rainbow River, and really didn't enjoy that because the current was really strong. So I researched for other nearby areas to drop the kayak in. What's nice about this place is the water is a lot calmer over here. There aren't those intense currents. There's, some canals and Hunter Springs itself, and the water is a lot easier to navigate with just a kayak. Crystal River, Florida is a really interesting community. Its main claim to fame is it's one of the few places in the world that actually allows you to get in the water and swim with wild manatees. And as I progress towards the residential area with the canals, you'll notice that there are divers and swimmers in the water in the channel as I head eastward. And I think they were basically looking for manatees the day that I was out, but the weather wasn't cold enough for them to draw into this channel yet, so didn't see any manatees when I was out in the kayak. Another thing that Crystal River, Florida is known for is an amazing collection of seafood restaurants, and that is because this is a fishing community, and you can see the structures located on the river where they actually load up fishing vessels. On the Riverwalk episode that's coming up, I actually did film a couple fishing boats coming in from the end of the day. I've been to several of these restaurants, and my favorite ones are probably the Crab Plant, Shrimp Landing, and Backwater Fins. And they all make amazing food, and it's as fresh as you can get because most of the time it is caught the day you're eating it, so can't really recommend this place enough if you really love seafood like I do. Another interesting facet that I noticed about the Crystal River community is most of the hotels, at least the smaller family-owned ones, they have boat dockage for the hotel guests, which is not something that I'm used to seeing. It really is a great idea. Crystal River is known for the fishing and boating. It does make sense that they would have a lot of boat launches. And specifically, a lot of the hotels have direct access to the waterways. And it's a pretty well thought out area. I do have another episode that I'm working on, as I mentioned earlier, for the Crystal River Riverwalk. But it's kind of hard to do a review on that since it's currently incomplete. There are a lot of sections of the Riverwalk that basically dead end, where they're planning to build bridges or piers, and it's a work in progress. And what they've got already is pretty nice. The Heritage Village shopping district is also really nice. When I reviewed the Denellen Historic Shops a couple episodes ago, I was frustrated with how poorly laid out it was and how most of the storefronts were abandoned. But the Heritage Village is pretty much the opposite. It's what should have been done in Denellen. There's a lot of great shopping. All the stores are located next to each other, and there's just a lot more restaurants. There's even a history museum that has free admission that shows you what the town of Crystal River looked like over all the years dating back to the 1800s. The Heritage Village isn't particularly large, but it is well organized and grouped closely together, so you're not walking around aimlessly like you are at the historic shops in Dunellen. One of the things that surprised me when I was out on this kayak voyage was just how shallow the water is in some sections. You'll notice that you can see the bottom because there can't be more than 18 inches or 2 feet of water in some of these sections. And I realized I was floating down here around low tide, but when I go back in that neighborhood of the canals and you see the size of some of these, boats, I don't know how they navigate, back there. They must have to wait for high tide just to get the boats from those boat docks, because this waterway is really shallow, just remarkably shallow. I was really surprised. So I recently had a conversation where I was discussing going to Crystal River, Florida with my friends, and they asked me out of the blue, is there actually a Crystal River? And the answer is yes. Crystal River, I'm not on the river right now. That is west of me. But the Crystal River itself is 6 miles long and is fed by 30 different springs throughout the area. So I thought that was kind of neat. Crystal River is also in the heart of the state of Florida, known as the Nature Coast. And they call it the Nature Coast because ecotourism is so popular here. A lot of people like to go boating, and a lot of state parks and nature trails and things like that. Another cool piece of trivia that I discovered about Crystal River, Florida is when they were constructing the power plant in 1969, they excavated rhinoceros and mastodon bones. So apparently those giant animals once lived here in prehistoric times. Another thing that this area was known for, apparently before it was a fishing community, they started out as a turpentine industry here in Crystal River. Not sure why that occurred, but that was the original industry before fishing took over. One of the things that I really like about this city is there's no shortage of attractions to visit, especially if you like the Nature Coast. Homosassa Springs Wildlife State Park is amazing. It's basically like going to a zoo, only it's priced like a state park, which is a lot cheaper than most zoos that you'd experience. Another thing that they have here is Three Sister Springs, which is probably one of the most beautiful springs I've ever been to. And they actually even have a trolley that runs to the park and shuttles people between the public parking areas and Three Sister Springs, because there's not a lot of parking at the site itself. One of the things that I learned about at the Coastal History Museum was there was actually a Civil War battle that took place here in Crystal River, Florida. I hadn't heard of that until I was at the museum, even though I had heard about the Civil War battles in Natural Bridge in Marianna, Florida. I was not aware that there was actually a battle here, and apparently it was pretty intense and had a lot of casualties. Didn't realize that Florida had so many Civil War battles, to be honest. I figured we were pretty far south, but I stand corrected. Another interesting thing is the city of Crystal River was established in 1843. However, the railroad line didn't make it to Crystal River until 1888, which I found surprising. For the longest time, it appears that you could only make it here on horseback. So another interesting piece of trivia is Crystal River has always been located in Hernando County. And Hernando County was established in 1843. However, the city of Crystal River didn't actually become a city until 1923. So I was filming this on a pretty chilly day in November. The ambient temperature in the air was maybe 60 to 65 degrees. So the water temperature was probably in the 50s. And I guess people were using wetsuits because that water temperature is way too cold for my blood. But it seemed like these people were having a good time. Another interesting piece of Civil War history is the state of Florida was heavily relied on by the South for food production. Citrus was really big back then, so as a result, the Union created a statewide blockade of the state of Florida to block food from getting to the Southern soldiers. And that's amazing to me. It would be a huge undertaking to create a blockade for such a large peninsula. I'm amazed that it was successful, but apparently it worked. I will say this water isn't nearly as clear as the water on the Rainbow River. However, the currents are just a lot more manageable out here. I am having a much better time navigating in a kayak as a novice than I was when I launched the kayak at Blue Run. So, if you're just starting out in the kayak like I am, this is definitely the place you want to come. You want to come to a place that is mostly calm waters. And even though it was kind of windy today, the currents weren't particularly strong. It was just almost an illusion. It looked like the water was really pushing against me, but in reality, you can see I'm making pretty decent progress. For this particular kayak adventure, I had done quite a bit of research using Google Earth to try to plan out the route a little better, because I wasn't really satisfied with the first trip that I took with the camera mounted kayak, It just felt like I had kind of let my audience down by not exploring enough. So this time I wanted to find something that I could pretty much move around a lot, and this really did work out well. It was always my intent to explore these canals in this residential community in Crystal River, and it really worked out well. I was really happy with just how much ground I was able to cover on this particular trip. You really shouldn't be too surprised that there are no manatees in this video today. It's the wrong time of year. You know, manatee season is kind of in January and February. The temperatures have to drop more for them to be attracted to this warmer water. You know, right now, with the temperatures in the 60s and 70s, they can pretty much hang out wherever they want. They are only attracted to these warmer waters when the ambient temperatures drop to, you know, the 40s, maybe even the high 30s. So right now I'm traveling parallel to Suncoast Parkway, which is located on my left-hand side. For those of you not from the area, Suncoast Parkway is the main artery of the city of Crystal River. Pretty much all the shopping and attractions are located directly on Suncoast Parkway. These seem like pretty nice houses, although I don't know if I would want to live here. You know, just because of those assholes in kayaks who row right through your backyard. Can't stand those people. I still have no idea how some of these big boats make it out of this canal. The water is barely knee-high in some sections of it. There's a lot of different people that go out kayaking. It just depends on what type of personality you are. I know there are a lot of thrill junkies that love to go whitewater rafting in a kayak and, go for that intensity and excitement, and I get it. That's just not for me when it comes to the kayaking. This is more of the kayak experience that I like. Peaceful, calm waters, lots of nice scenery, peace and quiet, not very noisy. I have gone kayaking before down some pretty popular waterways like Wiki Wachee and those type of things, and those places are always really crowded, especially on the holiday weekends that I've been to those attractions in the past. And if you're looking for more peace and quiet, just a relaxing time, then Hunter Springs is probably what you're after. I know that's what I was looking for, and I was quite satisfied with what I experienced the day I came out here. I saw a lot of fishing boats while I was out here, but I never actually saw any fish, which is a little surprising. When I was in the Rainbow River, I saw a heck of a lot more fish coming up to the boat, although the water was a little clearer out there. But still, I was a little surprised that generally when I've gone kayaking, it's not uncommon to see a lot of catfish or bass in the freshwater, but today I didn't see any. I don't know if it was because I was in, mostly residential areas, or because there were so many power boats that seemed to dock in this vicinity. But I was surprised. I expected to see, a couple of fish, swim by at one point, but it didn't happen. So don't know why that is the case. So I was definitely on a sightseeing cruise. Instead of heading back immediately, I decided to deviate a little to the left to look around, and turns out that this canal that I'm entering now actually dead ends up ahead. When I was growing up in high school, um, I lived on this really neat canal that was located in Tamarack, Florida, and it reminds me a lot of this particular community. I got a little nostalgia when I was paddling down here. When I was in high school, I never had the opportunity to kayak down that particular canal, and that's something I definitely want to do next time I get down to South Florida, is kind of go back and revisit my old neighborhood. All these surrounding communities in Crystal River definitely remind me of those neighborhoods that I grew up in my childhood. So I'd say that's a pretty good thing, feeling comfortable in this environment. When I was shopping around the Heritage Village, everybody was so kind and welcoming too. It seems like it's a really nice city to come and visit. It's got that old style southern charm to it, and there's a lot of old buildings that date back to the 1800s, when they had the turpentine businesses and the old ice buildings and that kind of thing. So this is a pretty great time capsule for old Florida, and I really was quite satisfied with the trip to Crystal River. I'm telling you, there's some pretty nice houses in this neighborhood. A couple of these people can really throw one hell of an epic pool party. I guess it's about that time that I start trying to make some friends in this vicinity. The wintertime really is a great time of year to make these type of trips in this vicinity. I mean, granted, I know a lot of people prefer the early spring so you can see manatees in these waters. I kind of like the peace and quiet right now. It's still kind of off season here in November. There's not a lot of people in the water. It's just nice and quiet. You can just kind of unwind and relax. You know, the weather is absolutely flawless. I mean, how can you really complain about 65 degrees? I mean, it's just perfect weather. If you want to do this, off season in the wintertime is a great time to do it. Just keep in mind, if you want to see those manatees, it's got to be probably more like January or February. November, December, also a great time. I'm telling you, if I ever make it big on YouTube, I want to buy a house just like one of these. Having the canal for your backyard, it's just so amazing. It really is. And being able to fish and catch fresh catfish, throw it on the grill, barbecue hamburgers and hot dogs on July 4th and all those other things. I grew up in a house just like this in high school, and it was nothing but good times. It really was. So what's the bottom line on Hunter Springs Park? This is a great place to bring your kids. You know, it's just an average community park, decent playground. The swimming area isn't going to appeal to older kids, but the modest-sized beach is plenty for the younger ones. The highlight for me is obviously the kayak launch, which is what I spent most of the time on this video for. The only cost associated with going to Hunter Springs Park is the metered parking. You know, it costs $1 for 1 hour of parking, $2 for 2 hours of parking, or $5 for the entire day. So when it comes to other attractions in the area, this is definitely one of the least expensive options. Thanks for watching this episode of The Adventure Schmuck. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See everyone next week.